bit keen, I was bit good, I know, keen. I just couldn't.
All right. It'd be your bunks.
Aye, it was a great place.
What memories have you got there?
Well, I met him before here.
So it had been a great occasion, really. Yeah.
Oh, aye.
And Beary's had been a pretty busy place that time.
Oh, it's a great place at that time. All the big bugs get here. Their parties and everything. We have missed him so well.
Aye. And your father was 40 year at Cowfords?
45 a year.
45 year at Cowfords?
45 a year in your crafty. Can't prove easy, can I?
Aye. And was he a long time at the post at Strichen?
I'd wait for you, I suppose, maybe.
School days. I went to school in 1920 and left in 1930. I have happy memories of Stricken School and maybe lots of different stories that I can mine on. The headmaster, Mr. Skinner, was a bit of a character in those days. He had a law in Clamsale and he was Irish. As bairns, whenever he appeared into the playing field, everything stopped dead. The lassies laid down their skipping ropes, the loons stupid, playing football, and everybody lined up and saluted him. On a Friday, he was often away at EIS meetings or League of Nations meetings, and if he appeared in the morning with his tail hat on, there was great relief because he was going away with the 10 o'clock train or the 1 o'clock train. But if he came with the soft hat on, he wasn't going away, or he maybe appear at dinner time with the tail hat on.
In the Stricken Estates office in the 1920s. It was a shock to the people in the village when it was known that the estate was to be sold. For many years it had belonged to the trustees of the late George A. Baird, who was never a resident landlord. The house was let and shootings were let every autumn
So it was a busy place, really, was it? The Stricken House. You recall?
No, it was closed, you see. There was only the housekeepers, except during the shooting season.
Yes.
And the shooting tenants brought their own staff with them. There were 3 gamekeepers, 4 gardeners, 4 foresters, and the grounds were kept in immaculate condition.
You can recall the beautiful avenue and that
Yes,
actually going up. Can
yes.
you describe that, please? As it used to be, up past the pond and that.
The grounds were more or less private, and it was a beautiful avenue almost a mile long with rhododendrons and a beautiful beech wood. Residents in the village would know why Slee Crescent and Baird Road got their names. The Slees, Mr. John Slee and Dr. Charles Slee, were factors over a long period.
Job catch collections of Stricken House as it was in that time was, well, the only time we could get up the avenue was on school picnic days. Sunday school picnic, we were all lined up outside the school, and all Rob had, and we had a drum, and we usually had a piper, and the whole school walked up to a field up behind Stricken House, and there we got maybe a baggie of biscuits and a little brandy and a cup of tea, and races, Bairns ran races, and that was just your picnic. It was a treat to see the grounds in that days. Manicured would be a better word for it. The grass was cut short all the way up the avenue. There would have been maybe 3 foresters worked on the estate at that time, and an old Mrs. Wilson, her job was sweeping the avenue. We besom and 12 bits of boards for a shuffle, and she just lifted the leaves or the sweepings and just dipped them into the wood. But around about 1926 the estate was sold, and Colonel Adamson for Duff House at Banff bought Stricken House and was to turn it into a hotel, but it really never got off the ground. It maybe 3 years or thereabout, and it more or less collapsed. I can remember, as I said earlier, taking bread up. I've even gone up with a hand cart with supplies, bakery supplies for parties. Can remember a few weddings being there. Aye.
Started. Let me think. Is that my husband? Right, all right. In the days when Stricken House was a hydro, an amusing story is told about the gamekeeper there. He Henderson. He was standing outside in the great porch, talking to one of the guests who had just been out shooting, but who hadn't had much luck. The gentleman turned to the gamekeeper and said sadly, "You'll be thinking I'm about the worst shot you ever had." Mr. Henderson didn't reply. Silence for a few more minutes. Then the guest said, "You're not saying anything." And Mr. Henderson replied, "No, I'm just thinking."
So the thing is, when you first came here, there must have been great beauty round about Stricken House and that, with the rhododendrons and that. You've still seen it in part of its beauty.
Do you want to go down there again?
But when you first, it was a ruin when you came here?
It was a ruin for me.
Days.
Well, when I came here, well, in the old days it would be lovely. It would be beautiful. There's the garden wall. Look, that was the garden wall. Garden's cottage over there. You'll still see the apple trees on the wall there. And this was it's a blaze of colour in the spring and summer, of course. But I never saw it anything. Well, perhaps it wasn't quite as bad as that, because they put up a bit in front and made it into a cattle court, which is not very romantic. I could do anything about it. I even got the job to mend a hole in their fire. Do you know that?
Oh, I see.
One of them was bottom bars, you see. And this old Mrs. Fetcher says, the ashes are going right through the middle of the fire. What can I do? I said, well, what's it like? Let me see it. So I looked at it. I said, well, the only thing you can do, unless you buy a new one, is to get a template and get a thing cut and put it on the top. It'll be a nuisance, certainly, but you can always see the ashes going through. So, all right. So I don't think she knew what a template was, by the way. I took a piece of paper up and some cardboard, and I got a template. I hunted up all the iron foundries and things I could find in the yellow pages, and found there was one alongside, I think it was. So I went away to find out if I could have a thing made. Oh, they were very sweet about it. They were amused, I think. They found some old iron bars that would do, so I said, well, could you do it for me and phone me when it's ready, I'll come back. Oh yes, right. So I went back and I said, right, how much is that? Well, the man, he said, if himself had been here, it would have been nothing, but I'll better take 10 shillings. So he took 10 shillings, so 10 shillings, so I brought it back. So it's still up there, I think, in the house, as far as I know.
When you were at Stricken School, was it Stricken School still a senior school?
Well, when we
time?
came here, it was a senior. Yes, it had a senior department. It's only been let me see. It's only been dismantled about 2 years, I think. That senior department, but it was very small by that time. You see, now of course it's down to a primary.
Right, a primary school now. Okay, thank you very much.
Not at all. I hope it'll do.
Well, there was a wool mill up,
Oh, yeah.
Kenholm Mill. No, you mind about the blankets out out to dry?
Well, it was a wool mill, a wee bit out of the village. It employed a lot of people. They went up, they walked up every day, early in the morning, and they made blankets. They hung them out on fences to dry. They bought the wool, the farmer brought in his wool from the sheep to get his blankets made. And they hung them out there to dry. And they also made heavy tweed, which was made into kersey trousers for working on the land.
Did a shop in the village, mate?
They did a shop in the village where they could sell their stuff.
The name was Vars.
The name was Varsity, yes. And there was also a meal mill. The farmers brought in their oats to the miller, and he ground their meal for them because they lived on oatmeal and milk and stuff was grown in the land. And we used to go up and buy our oatmeal. The village people went up with a pillow slip and carried home their oatmeal from the meal mill.
It must have been a busy time during the markets.
It was a very busy place.
Aye.
There was a
Alfie Cooper made thrashing mills.
Oh, they made thrashing mills in Strichen.
Yes.
yes.
Aye. Far about was that, Dean?
Down
Well,
was the street. Little mills, not the huge mills, but small farmers. Farmer bought these mills and they did his own thrashing sometimes. And then there was the new mill brewery for James Mickey made ale. He got thrown, the man went through the country selling his ale.
Aye, of course, there was a busy brewery at Strichen, wasn't there?
Well, there was, like you said,
Aye,
up
aye.
the Brewery Road.
Aye, aye.
The road's still called the Brewery Road.
And then, of course, the big house had been
Aye.
off a Bonnie Night Days tea, wouldn't it?
Lovely, lovely. The avenue was a favourite walk
Aye.
on a Sunday afternoon. And our school picnic went to Stricken House every year. And I didn't mind it being a bad day.
Aye.
We ran
We
races.
walked up the avenue for the school.
The paper in front.
Well, paper, we didn't away.
And the Mart days must have been busy,
Aye.
wouldn't it? Been a lot of folk in the village.
The Mart,
during
Monday was a
Mart.
busy day in the Mart, a lot of folk in the village, aye.
Aye.
The cattle used to cross the market stands.
Take the cattle and the pigs up to the stations, load them onto the railway station at that time.
Goods train.
In the Fian markets, would that have been even busier?
Field market twice a
Aye.
year, in May and November.
Mhm.
That was a great event. Well, we had a day off for the school. That was beside the big school, you see. We couldn't study if the market was there with too much noise, so we got a holiday.
Oh,
We could,
how was your school teacher in that days?
well, in our day, Mr. Skinner was headmaster.
Aye.
He was a good headmaster, very strict, but a clever man.
His foot is in a library.
And you could go to that school at 5 and go right on to 18 and go to university from Stricken higher grade public school.
Aye.
But Stricken school was reduced, you see, now it's just an elementary.
Primary.
Primary, no. Well,
But in the Mart house there, what had actually been in the Mart house for a start? Was it somebody in charge of the Mart at one time?
It was just property that belonged to the Mart.
Aye.
oh, Farker, one auctioneer, he lived there.
Did he do the selling of the cattle, I wonder?
I think it's in a year, huh?
Oh,
And for about working in the shops, did you, in Strichen, far about did you work? Your father was a baker, was he?
Well, father was a baker to trade, but then ten company wanted to start on his own, you see, and then he'd the family able to help him, and he took a shop on High Street. 66 High Street. It's still a grocer's shop now. We sold everything, grape general merchant shop business, and he had a van. He went out to the country every day, and he took loaves for Simpson a baker. He had no van, but poor father took his loaves and sold us bread in the country to him. And he brought in loads of eggs and butter and stuff for the farmers, you see.
we had to pack the eggs in 30 dozen cases. Some went to Glasgow and
We had to chop up the boxes. We had to work hard too.
some to Dundee. And
Well, it's a story I could tell for the time. If we'd kent about this, you see.
It was Strichen more self-sufficient in our days.
Yes, there's a lot of shops. Twice as many, or 3 times as many shops. A lot of little shops and the army they live in.
Of course, they'd serve not only the village, but the whole country community. I suppose they'd use Strichen as a... it'd been a market too, you can. Aye.
And when there was a storm, the roads were blocked, big storms. The farmers came in with a bag in their back to carry their stuff to the grocers. Brought in their eggs and stuff that they had to sell, and took a load of groceries and stuff and bread. Because the van couldn't get out the road, you see.
Aye.
Was as many cars they can't in these days. They depended on the village for their getting bread and food stuff.
some of the farmers come in with a sledge, mate.
Oh, aye,
With
yeah.
a sledge.
Have you any memories, Roseanne, in the old days, even working in shops? I mean, the price of stuff or anything at all?
Price of stuff, yes, aye.
Oh, aye.
But I think barley was 3 pennies a pound.
Cereals on barley, peas, and semolina and rice and stuff like that was never more than 2 a pound when I was in the shop. 2 pence, 2 old pennies per pound.
We would weigh up everything.
There was nothing in packets. You didn't buy stuff in packets and put it on the shelf. No. We put it into bags and weighed it up neatly and tied it up. And
Salt was a penny a pound. Common salt.
sugar was 4 pence a pound.
Everything had to be weighed. Father got the syrup in huge barrels. It was they were put up on a stand. We had to wash the syrup jars first and fill them with syrup, cover them up with string and tie them, cover them up with paper and tie them with string. This is put to go to the van.
I think, in looking back to your earlier days in Strichen, it's the things that you miss most or see it has vanished most and that you feel sad about, looking back.
Well, Stricken House being in ruins. It's a lovely place. We spent many happy hours in the vicinity of the big house.
Sunday
You know, Sunday afternoon and the pond was nice to look at. And, it was well kept. You see, it's just a shambles that road now.
Aye,
There's rhododendrons and the grass was just lovely. And
beautiful.
no, it was good. And up the course road, the trees were just like this. You see up the road. Well, it's bare compared to what it was once. You see. But I think we had the best days again.
So you think the community's lost a lot now, Ken? The community's lost a lot, aye.
There's a lot of, an awful lot of folk of cars and they go down to Frisborough and do their shopping. There's a free bus comes round the country for fine fair, isn't it?
Oh, I think folk
Takes
did this.
folk down to Frisborough. Shops here can't get a livelihood.
Aye. So that's a change as well. And for about the train, have you any memories with the railway and that?
Oh, the train was fine. You could do the Frisborough for afternoon. You could spend it at the beach or anyway. Or if you went to Aberdeen, the train, you could.
How long did you spend in the shops? How 2 hours did you put in a week in the shops?
It was open at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Went to eight again.
8 o'clock and we closed at 9 o'clock on Saturdays. after that with the hand machine to clean. Sometimes 10 o'clock they were finished. Father had to get out of the van packet for the next day before he would stop working.
He'd offer big roads, he went to some offer outlying districts, he came bad roads, the roads weren't done in there. Some offer rough roads, and he was often late and he got home.
Do you mind your wages not earlier days now?
Wages,
We didn't get wages, we got our keep.
ja.
We were
Wel,
glazed.
want ik lezen laat en ze. En kon net even verdienen voor dat day off. We didn't put a days off, we just closed.
We didn't get
We
holidays.
just closed one day a year, New Year's Day. The grocer next door was Gillen Patterson, Mr. Patterson. He came in one time and he said to her father, would you like to close on Christmas Day or when the holiday tells? And father says, I'll need to go another holiday because I just have to make it up. I couldn't help my customers do. So we just got New Year's Day.
There was a stricken fair, a Strichen farmer, a great worthy, and he liked a good drum. He was coming home in night for the pub, and he had to pass the kirkyard. Some of Scrooners had made up beforehand that they were here, and he on fight sheets and come out and scare him and see who they could stop him and get down to Bob's coffin. So he's coming wandering up the road singing to himself, and out there dances and all round about him and danced in the road, and he blinked at him a while and he says, "Is this the resurrection? Or is you lads just out for a dander?"
Oh,